Welcome to the Solid Signal podcast for the week of April 24th, 2023. You know, there are essentially two different kinds of podcasts that I do. The first are the fun ones where I lose my temper or talk about something cool that I have found out in the world, and those are the ones that tend to get the most listens. But then there are the ones that I call paying the bills, and this, I have to tell you, is one of those. Please don't turn off quite yet, because I think it still could be a little bit entertaining. You know, every so often I do have to do a podcast that is a little bit more on topic, something that pertains to my bosses at Solid Signal, who are so generous and let me do pretty much anything I want on this podcast. The topic for this week is let's get activated. And why? Because honestly, a lot of folks don't realize that Solid Signal can do a lot of those activation tasks for you. And what does that mean? Well, okay. Inevitably, the worst part of getting any new piece of gear is having to do the activation on it. You know, get that new cell phone and have to stay on hold while they push a whole bunch of buttons and you have to repeat the same numbers over and over again. Same thing with a satellite TV receiver or a new line of internet service or anything of that sort. That's the worst, because you tend to go to an overseas call center. You tend to deal with somebody who isn't really very invested in what you're doing and doesn't have a lot of information about what you're doing. And that can be a little bit annoying. I do agree. But there is a solution, and that solution is to call the folks at Signal Connect. You know, when people shop at solidsignal.com, they think of us as basically an e-commerce site akin to Amazon or something like that, where it's all self-service and you push a button and you get something shipped to you. And nothing wrong with that, and we do an awful lot of that, to be very honest. But people who shop at solidsignal.com aren't always aware of the full service aspect of our business. How you can call us at 888-233-7563, and I'm going to probably repeat that number a couple more times. How you can call us, get somebody on the phone who is really interested in helping, because that's something that's really kind of special. That's something that really doesn't happen all the time. You call us during East Coast business hours and you get somebody who's really trained, somebody who does these activations for a living. They're not working for 10 other companies in a shared call center. They're doing something really specific, and they're there to help you. Our activation specialists are specifically trained on how to get through the computer systems that we work with. And I mean the ones at DirecTV, at Dish, at AT&T, at Viasat. You see, every different company has their own activation systems, and there's kind of a special magic to knowing how to get through them. Oftentimes, the folks that we have in our Novi, Michigan facility do a better job at activating you than the companies that they serve. Oftentimes, especially with the big companies, you just get somebody who's following instructions on a screen. Our folks do this day in and day out. They know what they're doing. And I really want to call out some of the experts that we've got. Whether it's Jason Vanover, who does an awful lot of this stuff, or Anthony Gainey, or Sean Hootzel, or honestly, I could go through the whole list and just give you the names of these superstars who are out there doing this awesome work and who can make sure that you get the kind of customer service you deserve. It's very easy to forget when you're on the phone with people, in a call center. These are people. These are people who are genuinely trying to help. And I think everyone who goes to work wants to feel like they're doing a good job. They're not just phoning it in. And certainly that's true of Solid Signal, that we have people who really, really want to make a difference. When I was talking to Jason Vanover, Jason said, I love to stay on the phone until everything is right. I don't like to give up. That's what Jason said to me. And that's the kind of spirit when you work at Solid Signal that you tend to have. It's just the kind of spirit that you find at Solid Signal. You find people who really, really want to help. They're not just kind of in it for the money or whatever and, just punching a clock. They really take a lot of satisfaction out of making sure the customer gets what they need. And it doesn't really matter if you're talking about satellite or internet or cellular or any of the things that we do, even if it's something that doesn't require activation, like a cell phone signal booster. These folks are here for you, and they're trained and they know what they're doing. That's kind of a big difference. And it's something that has really set our Solid Signal group away from the pack for a long time. And it's something that I have been privileged to watch firsthand. And when I'm there with the folks who are doing the work right there in person, it becomes really obvious to me how hard they work to make sure that everybody is taken care of, the way that they deserve to be taken care of. And if you don't believe me, it only takes one call to convince you. Call, and here's the number again, 888-233-7563. If you don't believe that it's possible to get old-fashioned customer service the way that you used to remember it, well, give us a try, because I think that you will be happy, and I think that you will agree there's a place for this kind of thing in 2023. It's something that people crave, that kind of connection, that kind of feeling like there's somebody on the other side of the phone who really cares about you. Anyway, this is going to be a little bit shorter podcast because I'm not going off the rails. The long ones tend to be the ones where I go off the rails all the way. And okay, so this isn't one of those. But it's still important to pass along that if you ever get around to thinking, why does it have to be like this every time I call somebody? It doesn't have to be like that. And at Solid Signal, it isn't. Anyway, enough of the sales job. Thank you very much for listening, as always, to the Solid Signal podcast. Leave a comment anywhere you listen to this podcast. Like, share, and subscribe if you can. Makes me look good to my bosses. And I will be back, I promise, in the coming week with something that I guarantee I'll go off the rails on something. You know, if you listen to this podcast, you know I flip out on a pretty regular basis about stuff. And it's a lot of fun for me to flip out, and it's a lot of fun for you to listen. So check us out next week on the Solid Signal podcast. And until then, have a great one.